Welcome to Famous Dead People with your host, Carl Dahlquist.
Welcome to another episode of Famous Dead People. Today, we have with us a man born in England during the 17th century. He discovered the three laws of motion, pioneered the study of physics, and watched apples fall from trees. Please welcome Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac, I would like to start today by discussing your discoveries involving light.
Yes, my optics research. During my days as a student at Cambridge, I read much about the theories around white light and why it refracts into multiple colors when passing through a prism. Aristotle believed that the prism caused the white light to change from white to the different colors. But after reading Kepler and Descartes and doing some pondering on my own, I realized that this really couldn't be the case. Instead, white light must be made up of all the other colors of light in order for it to refract the way it does in a prism. But how do I prove it? This led to my crucial experiment. In a completely dark room, I let in a small amount of sunlight through a hole in a shutter. This light passed through a prism and onto a board. The board had a hole in it that would allow one color to pass through it and into a second prism. For example, I would line up the board to allow red light to pass through, and when that light passed through the second prism, only red light appeared on the board behind the prism. This experiment proved that the reason that white light changes in a prism is because it is in fact made up of all colors of light.
And that discovery really changed how we think about the way that light works. So let us move on now to the work that most people know you for, your discoveries regarding gravity and motion. Is the apple story true?
The story that while sitting under an apple tree and being hit on the head by an apple is a complete fabrication. However, I did observe apples falling from a tree and hitting the ground. It took a few years after that, as well as observing the motion of planets and the moon, that I realized that the gravity is the attraction of two objects and not a magical force that holds us to the earth.
And this led to your laws of motion.
Well, in my book, the Philosophy Naturalis Principia Mathematica, I started by laying out the basic definitions and axioms for our study in physics. The three laws of motion, as they are now called, were the axioms on which my understanding of motion and the interaction of objects in the physical world was built upon.
So, what about the time you spent dabbling in the alchemical arts?
You would bring that up. There was a brief amount of time where I looked to alchemy to help me better understand the natural world in which we live. I was trying to figure out if alchemy held any clues to the reactions we experience in the natural world.
Sir Isaac, many credit you with the discovery of calculus.
Lies, that man did not invent calculus.
Gottfried Leibniz, of course I did. Just because you published it first doesn't mean you discovered it first.
Of course it does. Everybody knows if you don't publish your findings, they don't count. Calculus and
That's all the time we have for today. Join us next time to speak with Socrates and Confucius.